What is up, guys? We're here for the conclusive, complete, detailed review of Dune II. If you are not wanting spoilers, I will give that review to you right now. We're not going to waste any time and jump right into it. Perfection is unachievable in my mind. Okay? Let me preface with that. The spoiler-free review, I'll just give you my rating, but I need to explain a couple things before I give you that rating. Perfection is unattainable in my mind. The 10 out of 10s in life are more often than not true. There's always room for improvement from everything in life. There's no such thing as true perfection. So, what is the highest I can rate it? 9.9. And that's exactly what I would give Dune 2. I would give it 9.9. I think it is the most, the closest to perfection a movie has ever been. I think it surpasses any movie before it that I thought was ranked extremely high. And now if you want to know why, well, then we got to get into the spoiler review. But for right now, that is my rating. That is my spoiler-free review, is that I don't think, and I will never hand out a 10 out of 10 to something. But a 9.9, that's the highest I could ever give you. And that's exactly what I'm giving Dune 2. Now realize, will it stand the test of time? Will it stand the test of time? Will it stand the rewatch rating? Because I've only seen it once and I saw it in theaters. Will it stand that test? We'll find out, because I do plan on watching it a lot more. Trust me, it's my favorite movie ever. I think I will watch it repeatedly. I will buy it. I will watch it. I'll stream it. I'll do all those things. And guess what? A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I'm going to be watching it. And we'll find out if it does stand the test of time. But does it also stand the test of a sequel? Because we do know that Dune Messiah is coming and it's being written. You can be ruined by your sequel, as I've seen with Force Awakens. So I'm intrigued to see where it goes. But as of right now, as it stands, 9 out of 9, or 9.9 out of 10 would be the review that I would give it. Now, if you want to know why, stay tuned, but I'll be getting into some spoilers and referencing certain things in the movies. But this will be the most complete, detailed review that I can give you. So, stay tuned. So first and foremost, in order to look at a movie these days and to rate it, it's like the housing market. You have to find comparables and you have to rate it as such. In your neighborhood, when you want to get the value of your home, the value of the other homes around you affects the value of your home. The same with movies, in my opinion. And so when I compare, though you can't base the entire grade off of comparison, you have to actually look at it itself. Because even if your neighborhood is wealthy, but you live in a dump, your house is a dump. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people this day and age in the movie industry and entertainment industry that is saying 2 + 2 = 5. But I know that 2 + 2 = 4. But to prove to you that it's 4, I'm going to tell you all the things that it's not. 2 + 2 is not 6. It's not 5. It's not 10. It's not 20. It's not 100. It's not 105. It's not -4. It's 4. And so through these chapters of breaking down the review, I'm also going to do some comparing and discuss the negatives of the movie entertainment industry as it stands, which attributes to why Dune 2 is so phenomenal. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, when I look at the story of Dune, is it worth writing? Because there's lots of good movies and well-made movies that I think the story was not worth writing. Hacksaw Ridge, for one. I think it's one of the worst movies ever made because it's a story not worth writing. Forgive me, and you can judge me harshly, but watching a military movie and a war movie about someone who refuses to fight in a war is pathetic. Conscientious objectors are wrong. I stand by that. And so I don't want to see a movie about that. It's not a story worth writing. Though the heroics in the movie and what he did, bravo. Do it with a gun in hand, and I'd be standing ovation rating your movie better and saying it was a story worth writing. But it's not. Ford versus Ferrari. Was it a movie and a story worth writing? I would argue no, because I did not appreciate the ending. All things up until that point, very entertaining, but not a story worth writing. Look at majority of Star Wars movies. Is it a story worth writing? It was until now. That's the thing, is there could be a not well-made movie, but that has an incredible story, and I want to watch it. So when I look at a story worth writing, is the story of Paul Atreides, the planet Dune, the houses that surround it, all of these things, are they worth writing? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because the story is not what you expect. And spoiler, not just about Dune 2, but in future Dunes. I'm not going to get into detail, but I'm letting you know the story does not turn out the way that you think. So be careful the hype train you're on. Because if I was able to predict what ends up happening in our society and culture when Dune Messiah comes out, and I think they're doing 4 movies, so they're doing Dune Messiah next and then one more after that and kind of wrapping up the story, or they might be ending with Dune Messiah. But either way, when that comes out and it finishes, I think people are going to be very surprised. And I think some people are not going to like the story. But it's real. It's real. It's not good guys versus bad guys. Good guys win. It's not, I joined with my friends and life is good and we just did everything correct and yeehaw, and now we're going to win over all evil. Because that's not real. That's not realistic. That's the Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul trope. That is not realistic. How many movies have you seen where the good guy is outgunned in every way, shape, or form, but somehow makes it? There's times where that's plausible. Look at history. The 300 Spartans. But I would argue the 300 Spartans were not the underdogs in that story. Why? Because their skill, their training, they were better than their counterparts. You see? It's not always realistic that the good guy wins just because he's good. He needs to be good, skilled. But when we always see the same bad guys coming up over and over again, and they're the most powerful, baddest people, and then they make the simplest little mistake that they would have never actually made, but because we get to create the story, let's rewrite history and rewrite the story so that the good guy wins. Because we want people to be happy. Art was not meant to make us happy. It was meant to evoke emotion. But that's in chapter 2 of this review. We'll stop that there and continue on in the story worth writing. It is. Because of the art that it is and the artistic quality of it. But it's a story worth writing because it's challenging to you. How would you feel if you root for Paul Atreides through 1 and 2, and then the third one comes out and you realize, was I rooting for the right guy? Well, wait a second. Well, I definitely wouldn't have rooted for Harkonnen. I didn't like the God Emperor. So I guess I had to root for Paul. But Paul is interesting. Paul is an anti-hero. Maybe he's not who I thought he was. Maybe you'll start to have the Chani effect of realizing he might not be who I thought he was. Which is what they're alluding to in the story. I'm not spoiling Dune Messiah stuff, but I'm asking you a genuine question. How would you feel about that? How would you feel if in the third movie it shows up and all of a sudden Paul is a complete Fade Rotha and just a sociopathic killer in hopes that he can conquer the future? I'm not saying that's what happens. I'm just genuinely asking. How would you feel? Would you feel betrayed? Would you feel angry? But it would evoke something from you. And it would challenge you. And I believe that is the point of stories. Stories are meant to teach us things. They're not just meant to make us happy and feel good. They're not meant to be 30-second viral clips compiled together in an hour-and-a-half movie. I'm looking at you, Into the Spider-Verse. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mayhem. Mitchell's vs. the Machines. Now, if you go on my Letterboxd, you'll see that I rated some of those movies pretty highly because I did enjoy them, and some of them do have really great quality. But the problem with those movies is that they are well made and have pretty good stories, some of them. But it doesn't mean that I think it's what all movies should be doing, yet it is what all movies should be doing. And you know what's really great about it is the story, the book that Frank Herbert wrote, and the point of that, and the meaning of it, and what the purpose of him writing it was, and the fact that the movie doesn't stray too far from it. How many movies can you think of based on a book that you wish they would have just stuck with the book? Yeah, because it's a story worth writing. Well, it's a story worth writing and putting into a movie. And Dune 2 did that. And it encapsulated that. And it's a story where we truly get to see the famous quote, "Heavy is the head that wears the crown," personified. Because the internal struggle and battle that Paul goes through, you can feel it. You can feel it. One of the reasons why his acting was so incredible, but once again, that's an artistic standpoint. But the story, the setup, the way it's written, it makes you feel what the character feels. It draws you in. It doesn't just entertain you. It engages you. And the story and what we can learn from it and the impact that it can have on you and I, well, that'll vary from individual to individual because our experiences are different, but truly, it's what it's supposed to do. And that is why it is truly a story worth writing. You've seen it, a lot of movies. Story wasn't worth writing. Entertaining, visually great, acting was good, this and that, but was it a story worth writing? Most of the time this day and age, no. Any superhero movie you've seen in the last 10 years, no. Wasn't worth writing. You can argue that it's a good movie, sure, but was it worth writing? Was it worth the time? Was it worth the money? Was it worth the energy? No, I don't care that you're a fanboy of Thanos, Thor, Iron Man, Spider-Man, blah, 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 comics and this and that. I'm sorry, but I'm telling you something. Majority of superhero movies today are not worth writing because they're all the same. Copy, paste, unoriginal. Why do you think Disney's able to produce so many of them? Just think about that for a moment. They're just shy of Hallmark quality copy and paste so they can pump out as many movies as possible, and it's backfiring. And that is why we need to look at the neighborhood. The neighborhood that Dune is in. Sci-fi. Rebel Moon, not a great movie. I dropped a review on it. Not a great movie, but I liked it. I liked it, but it's not a great movie. Not a good movie. not quality. So when you look at the sci-fi realm right now, what else is out there? Star Wars. Well, Disney has certainly beat that horse to death. And let's be honest, once they took it over, that horse had some issues before it died. So, Dune II, a story worth writing. Energy well spent. Money well spent. Engaging. Something you could take away from and be better. That's the truth. Chapter 2 is the artistic qualities, the cinematography, the script, the score, the acting. These are all art. Now, we need to discuss what art is. Art, if I could describe it in a situation, imagine that you are stuck in a coma. Can't move, can't talk, can't communicate in any way, shape, or form. Okay? But you can hear and you can think. And someone nice visiting people at the hospital, somebody you've never met, they come in and they start to visit you. And you fall in love. But you're in a coma and you can't express yourself, but you have this longing and desire that is just pent up within you, and you cannot let it out. You cannot tell them. You can't stop them from leaving. You can't spend your life with them. You can't. I'm trying to get an emotion from you right now. Imagine this. That's what art is. It's the key that unlocks you in that situation. Because there's situations and things that'll happen to us in life and experiences that we have, and they could be any number and range of emotions and experiences, from negative to positive and all the things in between. But sometimes in those situations, we're not able to express what's going on. We're not able to manifest. We're not able to communicate. We're not able to understand it, even in our own mind. But then the song comes on that puts the words into existence, to a melody that gives you that sensation and feeling, and now you have been unlocked from the trap that you were in. That's what art is. It unlocks you from the trapped emotions, experiences, feelings, struggles, all those things. That's what art is. So when we look at cinematography, it's not just about camera angles and shots. It's about, what does this angle on this person do? What does it do? The score, the music, the script. Is this realistic? Would somebody actually say this? Or is it just acting? Is this a realistic scenario, decision-making, contemplation? Because the moment you go outside of the realistic, the immersion is ruined. It's the craziest thing that you can go to a movie like Dune, sci-fi, something that is very unrealistic, mind you. We live on Earth, not in the stars, right? Yet, anyway. And yet, somehow, you're watching that movie and you are so immersed as if it's the realest thing you've ever seen. But it's because of the artistic standpoint and the emotion that it evokes from you. It's what art is. It's what it draws out of us. What it sets free. And so when we look at the contemplation of Paul Atreides, when we look at the hurt and pain of Chani, when we look at the faith of the bearded guy, you know who I'm talking about. He's on all the memes now. I can't remember his name for some reason. The guy who teaches him how to ride the worms. Come on, Brock. You're doing a review. You should have these characters' names down. I'm very sorry, but you know who I'm talking about. To have his faith. To see the lunacy and crazy of Reverend Mother, Paul's mom. To see the loyalty and honor of Gurney. That even when he's down and out, he's still thinking how to honor his Duke. You're feeling these things. You're struggling through these things. The disgust of Fade Rotha. You're disgusted by him, which you should be. That's good. Don't hate a movie because it has a gross thing. When it's the evil thing and it's not glorifying the evil thing and it's saying this is evil, look, can't hate it for that. That's well done. Too many times nowadays, evil is glorified in movies and it's portrayed in a way that makes us want to be it. That's why you see so many people dressing up like villains and things. But this is the artistic quality of this movie and the story as well, tying into chapter 1, understanding the emotion that it draws from us. And this movie and the goosebumps, breathtaking emotional ride that you go on through this movie. And I'm not just saying roller coaster, just the ride that you go through. Unparalleled. It's not just the I'm rooting for you to do well, which I think Lord of the Rings has always been the best at that. The emotion you feel when you watch Lord of the Rings is because you have friends that you care about in it. Like you almost feel like you're friends with them and you're on this journey and do it. You could do it. And all these different things are going on and emotions. But I think there was an emotional ride in Dune 2 that surpassed even Lord of the Rings and the quality that Lord of the Rings was. And I think is, one of the highest rated movies I had up until today, up until last week when I watched the movie of Dune 2. The art that is Dune 2 is incredible and unmatched. And I think it's one of the reasons why easily the best movie to date. Chapter 3, problem with movies today. Like I said, you need to point at what it's not sometimes to understand what something is, right? And I'm going to try not to spend too much time on this, but movies today, and Disney's the easiest one to call out for this, but there's plenty of other movies and studios that are like this, and it's across the board in video games, in music, in movies, just kind of art as a whole. But I'm going to talk specifically about entertainment in movies and understanding that all they do is numb your mind from feeling rather than making you feel. And the stories that aren't worth writing, which I talked about, and the quality that is genuinely as if they said, let's make as much flashing lights and chaoticness happen in 30 seconds. Now redo that same thing for an hour and a half, and here's your movie. Well, there has to be comedic relief every 10 seconds. Oh, there has to be somebody sexualized and eye candy in a movie. There has to be. Oh, there has to be overtly crazy political agendas in movies. There has to be. That's the interesting thing about Dune 2 that you need to realize is that there's a political agenda in Dune 2. It might not be what you think, but there is a political agenda in Dune 2. And if you pay attention to why Frank Herbert wrote these books, and if you read the books, if you don't want to wait for the movies to come out, just want to read the books, you'll understand what that political agenda is. And it's not what you think it is. It's not this whole movement that we see nowadays. It's different, but it's still a political agenda. But you didn't realize it. Why? Because it was done right. It wasn't put out in front of everybody and said, hey, look at me, political agenda. No. It was artistically done because the storytelling and characters, and it all unfolds in a way that leaves an impact on you that will truly be more efficient and more impactful of a political agenda than the other option. Today's movies and agendas, it's like, let's just shoot 1 million bullets and hope one lands, rather than make a great quality story and hopefully that makes an impact. It's interesting. Problem with today's movies is the ADHD culture and standpoint on those things. And I also talked about how the good guy always has to win because he's the good guy, rather than making things realistic. And the trope of making somebody's final death scene amazing. It's one of the things that I didn't like when I saw somebody's review, was that Dave Bautista's death scene was too short. I'm sorry, have you ever been in a knife fight? Doesn't last long. Doesn't last long. As well as when you get into the detail of what's going on in that character's mind, which you obviously missed because you were probably checking your phone too often to pay attention to the movie. But a good soldier is a confident soldier. A great soldier is an even more confident soldier, but not one that is arrogant like Fade Rotha. Right? But Dave Bautista at this point had proven himself a coward and someone who gives up and runs away. And he also was somebody who proved himself to be weak of mind and of character, and had no confidence after being embarrassed and demeaned and disrespected, which will immediately translate to the battlefield. And probably why in that fight he second-guessed himself on his tactics and moves and lost the fight rather quickly, while Gurney had all the confidence and motivation in the world. See, these are the details that you get in a movie like Dune II. But your 15-minute death scenes that make no sense for the villain that you want is because your favorite movie is Avengers. So please, while the adults are talking, my special friend, go to the kid table. Your opinion is not valid. I'm sorry. I love you, but your opinion is not valid. So whoever wrote that review, I don't even know who did, but you can go bye-bye. Make sure you dislike the video and make sure you comment down below how I'm wrong on that. I would greatly appreciate it. But that's the problem with movies today and how it's affected the audience to think that this is how it's got to be. Instant gratification. And if it's not like that, 1 star. Some of the best movies I've ever seen have some of the longest dialogue ever. But most people nowadays would turn it off if there's not enough action within the first 10 seconds. Dialogue's important. And that's why most scripts these days are half a star or less. Because dialogue doesn't matter to them. But in reality, when trying to make a good movie, dialogue does matter. So with the countless problems in movies today, Dune II didn't compromise. It didn't give in even the slightest bit to try to appease what would be viral. And I respect that. Chapter 4 is a culmination of all the things that I've kind of talked about. Where Dune 2 stands out. A masterpiece. All the things that it did right, I mean, I've listed them for you. And especially in the last section there, the last chapter with the problem with movies today is that it didn't compromise. And it stood its ground and it said, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to stick to the script and we're going to do what's right when it comes to making a movie. And we're going to produce that. And that is why this movie is a 9.9 out of 10. It is the closest bit of perfection. Because if I could compare it to something that is unbelievably great, that is Lord of the Rings, what I would say is probably my highest rated series ever. Right? And the quality, and yet it was made so long ago, and you compare movies to it and the cinematic experience going to the theater and watching Lord of the Rings, it's just, oh my word, this is awesome. That got shattered, not just beat, shattered, blown out of the water by Dune II. There might be a slight bias because I prefer sci-fi versus the fantasy trope of Lord of the Rings, but I do love Lord of the Rings. But Dune 2, in all of these ways, beats it because Lord of the Rings, in all of its glory, doesn't have the same realistic impact that Dune 2 has. Because the world that we live in now is so politically motivated and all these different things going on. So when you watch a movie that has these shifting politics and people doing this and overthrowing leadership and this and that and control over this planet. I mean, when you want to talk about controlling a desert because of what's in its sand, it definitely rings true to real life and what's in the Middle East with its precious metals. That's true. It's not conspiracy. So I'm just saying that there's this realistic aspect that people maybe don't realize is there. And then when you look at the journey that Paul goes on, and heavy is the head that wears the crown, and all of that, and it encapsulates it perfectly. The only thing that I would ever compare that to is The Godfather, Michael Corleone. When he doesn't want to go into the family business, goes into the family business, but and then completely gives in to the family business and becomes the monster. That character arc of the change of the character, a character that doesn't stay the same, but that is dynamic. That is incredible. Now, I plan to do more videos on Dune 2 and different segments of Dune 2 in the movie itself and scenes and different things like that, where I would love to talk about certain specific ideas, themes, and cinematic elements that I thought stood out, because I really want to see the movie industry change and shift more towards what Dune 2 is, because then it hires the standard for everybody else, and then we can stop wasting money on stupid movies that Disney pushes out. That other companies push out. So please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you staying for the entire thing. Comment down below what your rating of Dune 2 was, and please let me know where you disagreed with me. I would love to hear your argument in the comments. But I stand by it, what I said, that Dune 2 is the best movie ever made and is a 9.9 out of 10. This was the complete review of Dune 2 without having to spoil too much. So please, enjoy. And I look forward to sharing more videos with you in the future. God bless.